Welcome back to another epic episode of the Show. We are two geeks who talk about everything. My name is Aaron, and I'm joined by my co-host and cousin Landon.
Good day. Welcome.
How we doing this week, man?
It's been an ape-tastic week.
Fantastic. That's fitting because in our last episodes we spoke about the old Planet of the Apes franchise, and in this week's episodes we're talking about the new Planet of the Apes franchise. I guess it's all one big franchise, but they are separated by about what 30 years, 40 years, something like that. Uh,
Yes.
yeah. So, like I said, in today's episode, we are going to dive into the recent Planet of the Apes reboot trilogy that began with Rise of the Planet of the Apes back in 2011, followed by Dawn of the Planet of the Apes in 2014, and then it concluded with War for the Planet of the Apes in 2017. This trilogy reinvented the classic franchise and brought it into the 21st century with cutting edge visual effects and powerful performances. So, Landon, let's start at the beginning with Rise of the Planet of the Apes.
Well, what
This film,
about Mark Wahlberg?
let's pretend like the Tim Burton, Mark Wahlberg Planet of the Apes reboot did not happen.
Yeah, it doesn't
Uh,
count.
it,
It's not part
it
of it.
was an apostrophe. No, that's not the word. An apostrophe is a
Epiphany.
sky comma. Uh, it was
Was that
horrible.
was that Bob Hoskins who says, I think you
I,
mean
I think I've had an
epiphany.
apostrophe. I think you mean epiphany.
Yeah.
Hook. Always a great movie. Yeah. So forget about Mark Wahlberg. Marky Mark's Funky Bunch. Or excuse me, Marky Mark and the Monkey Bunch.
The
Ah,
Monkey Bunch.
about
My,
that.
there you go.
All right, so we'll start with Rise of the Planet of the Apes. This film showed the origin of the intelligent apes, focusing on Caesar, played by the remarkable Andy Serkis. What did you think about how they set up Caesar's story and the events that led to the apes gaining their intelligence?
I thought it was great. I when I first watched it, I wasn't really in the mood to pay attention to it. This time when I watched it again, I I really got into it. I really liked it a lot. I don't know if maybe it's because we're post-COVID, you know what I mean? And the end of it, you're just like, yeah. Oh, I know. But just
Seen
the
this before.
it's so interesting to me because the intention of James Franco for his father, John Lithgow. It's a good intention, right? It's meant to try to help his father, help a
Mhm.
situation. Um, there's so many good intentions about like the animals with like you have good people that the guy doesn't want to put him down who takes care of him, the guy with the beard, and then you have the not good intention, the his boss, who doesn't have it, or the neighbor, you know what I mean? You just have these very good, well-meaning people and these very not. I mean, it's very stark, but. And I feel like the whole series this sets it up good because, throughout all three movies, this is really about, what makes a person good? What makes a being good? Is it that they're an ape or they're a human? Or is it race? Is it gender? Is it, I mean, it just goes on and on. And this movie sets it up because you get that the thematic, those elements, those themes that continue on. So I thought it was great.
I agree. I think the way that they grounded everything in the medical experiment gone wrong, it all feels plausible. Like this is something that I mean, yes, it's science fiction, but it feels like this is the kind of thing that could happen in the real world, right?
Mhm.
Who knows what they're experimenting with in pharmaceutical companies. And of course, you're going to have executives like Dr. Jacobs who they don't necessarily see the positives or negatives that are coming from the testing. They see dollar signs. They
Right.
see, right away they're seeing, if they see that this ape has become intelligent and that means that this medication works, then we're going to fast track it, screw the consequences, and because we are going to make a truckload of cash off of this thing, and that's pharmaceutical companies. They make billions of dollars a year based on all of these medications that they're selling throughout the US that cost an exorbitant amount of money. But that is a discussion for a different day.
You know, it's
Um,
funny though, there's this corporate element, and that it's not just with pharmaceutical companies, but it's not just all about like just making more money. It's a culture of fear, right? And so you have this boss of his that's completely about being subservient to the board, right? And the board and funding, and it's not that getting funding or appeasing a board who's invested is not important, but the rat race of that, or just the focus on that being the predominant thing versus James Franco, who, towards the end he's just like, then I quit. You know what I mean? It's like he is not, that's not the number one priority for him, is appeasing the board. It's the research, and it's accomplishing what he's trying to do. And I think that's like pretty important here, because everything kind of falls apart because of where someone's focus is and where it's not at any given point in the movie, right? It's
right.
it's it's pretty crazy.
Um, so we get to see Caesar's character arc from a baby chimp raised by humans to the leader of an ape revolution. This was an incredible story to watch as far as his growth as a character. And again, you got to give major props to Andy Serkis. His motion capture performance as Caesar was incredibly nuanced. It was emotionally resonant. It's it's mind blowing that he has not been nominated for an Oscar. Like you
Oh
think
my
about
gosh.
all of the parts that he has played, where he is in the motion capture suit and he is bringing all of this emotion to his characters. I mean, think about Gollum, Smeagol in Lord of the Rings. He's amazing there. He played Kong in Peter Jackson's King Kong, and now he's done Caesar in three different movies. And he, like, seriously, it's amazing what he brings to these characters. But because Hollywood is so biased against this motion capture type of acting, he's not even considered for, like, he is the main character in these movies, but
Yeah.
he's not seen as a best actor kind of award.
It's
It's
incredible
ridiculous.
how versatile he is, because I think about him in 13 going on 30, of course, and all the ones that you named. And then you also see him as Claw, what's the guy's name in Wakanda, and
Oh,
Black Panther?
yeah, Claw.
Claw, right?
I can't
You
remember
know,
his first name, but
completely different. He's beefed up, he's macho, but so different in every single role that he does. And
yeah,
even in Andor, I mean, just different. He's so
yeah,
versatile. He's one of the best actors I think I've ever seen. I mean, he is amazing.
yeah. He really is a great character actor who can just take on pretty much any role they throw at him. And again, it's a crime that he has not been nominated for an Oscar.
Well, Caesar in these three movies, I mean, you think about just the leadership, and this, I mean, it is the leading role. I mean, he is an incredible actor, but and I know that we're seeing the CGI thing, but I'm thinking about Andy Serkis being there. I think about him doing the motion capture for Snoke. I think about him being, he definitely commands, in his presence, even when you're not seeing him physically. I know it's him. I know it's his poison demeanor, right? That's
Yeah,
great.
you're not seeing his face, but he's there. Like
It's him.
he is clearly commanding the room, the stage, whatever he is standing on.
I had
All right,
something
coming
for
up.
you real quick. Do
Yeah,
you
go ahead.
remember at the very beginning when Caesar's mother has taken the drug, and then she's violent, and they're thinking that it's the drug, but it wasn't. Very clearly, the damage been done. She was protecting Caesar.
Yeah,
I think it's
yeah,
interesting because the mislabeling or the misunderstanding of that there, and then you have Koba, who in the next movie, you know, shoots Caesar, and there's the misunderstanding that that's the humans, right? And it's
yeah,
just like there's a lot of this. There's a lot of focus. They shoot the guy, who's the deserter in the latest in the war movie, but he's protecting what, his daughter? You know what I mean?
Right.
And so isn't that ironic? It's just ironic to me how you come full circle of pretty much Caesar killing a dad who's protecting his daughter when his mom, in the very beginning of the movie, pretty much went ape. Well, she she went crazy, protecting him. Isn't that it
Yeah.
just I just think this overarching theme that they have is just so well thought out. That's
Well, and
incredible.
it comes back around to like just the intelligence that the apes have. It's almost like they 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 set themselves apart from humans, and Caesar, I think, hopes that they would be better than humans. But when it comes down to it, they fall into the same traps that humans do as
Right.
far as being violent towards each other, and having the same kind of problems that we do when we face each other.
Right.
It's about our choices. It's not necessarily about like
Right.
what our DNA says about us.
And
Like we
assumptions.
still
Yeah.
we still have the choices that we make. Like you mentioned Koba, so that brings us to the second film. Of course, he was in the first one. There toward the end, he was the intelligent ape that
The
was
second
given
one,
the
13.
yeah the new version of the drug in Rise of the Planet of the Apes, and he very clearly had it out for Jacobs throughout his arc there toward the end of the movie, and is responsible for Jacob's death. Uh, but in Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, set 10 years after Rise, Caesar is now older. He has built this ape community. It's well established in the forest, but they do come into contact with, or conflict, let me say, with remaining humans that have survived the viral outbreak, which they had eventually, I think, in the opening credits, they refer to it as the simian flu. So what are your thoughts now, how they've depicted the tensions between apes and humans now in what is considered the post-apocalyptic world?
Yeah, it's interesting. Well, going back real quick about Koba, Koba is the OG along with Caesar, but you see that both of them had different exposure.
Hmm.
Like as far as like Caesar had a chance to grow up with James Franco and had that kind of intentional father figure, right? Versus Koba had just been I think there's one part in the second movie where Caesar says from the humans he only learned hate. You know what I mean? That's how he looks at it. Where versus Caesar had learned more. Um, I thought it was interesting, the redneck guy with the hat, and who just starts everything off, who first shoots Ash, is it?
Yeah.
Um, I mean that guy, you're just like, dude, you really need to stop. You need to stop, right? Um, I thought that it was interesting how the humans were all kind of gathered and not bad, not really bad. I think Gary Oldman, did a great job in his role as a leader, but I was disappointed that they just died, right. That part was frustrating for me because I felt like they were good and overall, and really you just had a few little here's and there's of people that were aggressive. Um, so I thought that was kind of a bummer. But yeah, it's very interesting. What are your thoughts?
Well, you think about it, you've got Koba, who is bloodthirsty and obviously doesn't trust humans, so he's doing whatever he can to begin this war because he wants to wipe the humans out.
Right,
uh and so because of this, it starts this avalanche of violence that
right,
can't just be stopped. It's not like, oh, there's a little leak in the dam and you can put your finger in it and it'll stop. It is a torrent of flood water just coming over the spillway, and you just can't stop it. And Caesar realizes this by the end. He says that war is now inevitable. We started this, and he takes responsibility for that because Koba was one of his people.
right,
And even though he removes Koba from the equation by the end of the movie, it's still too late. The war has already started. And when you think about the character that Gary Oldman plays, yes, he's a leader of these humans. I don't think there's anything wrong with him or what he does necessarily. His sacrifice at the end, where he basically blows himself up, blows up the tower so that they can't communicate, and try to bring in more humans that would wind up dying at the hands of the apes. He feels like he is saving humanity by doing this. And maybe it's misdirected, maybe it's misguided
Sort
because
of
he's
like
not
Charlton
willing to
Heston
sit
in the
down.
second movie, right?
Right. Exactly. It's exactly what it is. He is doing what he believes is the right thing in his dying breath, but really what's happening is you are just perpetuating the violence and continuing this war that could have been avoided if you had just sat down with Caesar and had a conversation with him.
Well, I'm just
Um,
surprised that they just like this time has passed. All this time has passed, and they're like shocked. They don't realize that the apes are intelligent now.
yeah. Well, they've
Like,
been so far removed from the rest of society
right,
that they don't realize. It's probably one of those things where, like, in the 10 years that have passed, obviously humans have had a lot going on. They're dying
right,
off.
right.
And so they're not thinking about, oh, remember that thing in San Francisco
That's true.
where all those apes rose up against people and then took
Right,
over the Golden Gate Bridge? They're not thinking about that. That's probably one of those things that went down in history as like an urban myth.
right.
And so when they come across these intelligent apes in the forest where they're trying to get the hydroelectric dam going again, that's probably an amazing thing to them. They're like, oh, they're real. They exist. This is amazing.
So
And it's
here's the
also scary.
challenge. But here's the challenge that I have. So, and maybe I missed something. How are, I mean, other than by breeding, how are there so many apes that are intelligent now? Because I understand you had the mist that he threw and he got people gassed up, at the in the first one.
Right.
But how do
Uh,
you go and have hundreds of intelligent apes now?
Well, I feel like they explain that a little bit better in War for the Planet of the Apes, because remember they find there's another ape that calls himself Bad Ape,
Right, right. It's hilarious.
played by Steve Zahn.
So hilarious.
Uh, he was just a zoo chimp.
Yeah,
He was not
yeah,
connected at all to Caesar's clan,
right.
but he gained intelligence and gained speech, but it's because of the simian flu. So the simian flu was able to affect everybody, humans and apes.
Okay, so you're
But
saying
when it
like it's
affected
almost like a
apes,
virus that spread, a good virus that spread,
right? So it's the same virus. It spreads to humans and kills them, or
but it
winds up.
spreads to apes and enhances them.
Yes,
Oh, okay, gotcha. Because I kept thinking to myself, I get it how the virus spread bad for humans, but I was so thinking that it was just a limited to whoever got the gas. And so that makes more sense to me now. And I didn't understand about Bad Ape. I didn't understand that part because I thought it was actually a plot hole. And then so that makes more sense. It was a catching thing where they caught.
yeah,
By the way, that's hilarious. Favorite scene. Favorite scene of the last movie was when Maurice is trying to tell him to get on his back, you know, and
yeah.
he's like not getting it. And Maurice, who is always gentle and kind, just goes, "Wah!" At him, right? And then he's Bad Ape goes, okay, he's just like his face is just like frozen. I love that so much. That was the best.
By the way, just a little throw out. Did you know that Maurice, the orangutan, is named after the actor who played Dr. Zaius, the orangutan, in the original Planet of the Apes?
Oh, really?
Yeah, the actor's name was Maurice. I can't remember his last name, but that's who he's named after. Yeah.
Yeah, I think isn't Maurice a girl? The actress? There's an actress who plays Maurice. It's
Oh, I
not
think so. Yeah,
it's not a man, it's
like the motion capture. You mean?
yeah, yeah, the motion capture. Um Maurice was probably my favorite character outside of Caesar. I love Maurice. Maurice is just the and then Maurice could talk, one of the things I loved about the movies was that they kept getting more intelligent, you
Right.
know? And so by this third one, they were speaking regular sentences, and I haven't seen the new one yet, but I'm wondering if it's going to be even more enhanced. Maurice played by Karen Conoval. Oh, I know her. How do I know her? X-Files character actor. What do you know? She's done a lot of things.
Um, all right, well, let's carry on with War for the Planet of the Apes. Came out in 2017. Again, Matt Reeves directed this one like he did with the previous one. And this is our epic conclusion to Caesar's journey. So this film had a slightly different feel than the previous two. It's got a lot of war movie elements, Western influences. What did you think about the direction they took with the story and how it all wrapped up the trilogy?
I mean, I have to admit, I feel like it lost momentum. Um, the revenge, enslavement, um, Moses, Promised Land kind of thing was Woody Harrelson did a fine job, but it was just, I feel like it lost momentum, and it also made it far more isolated. I kept feeling like we were growing into something bigger, and then this felt, and then of course you had the end with the avalanche, and it's just like, oh well, that was with a nice pretty bow, and then
Convenient.
yeah, very convenient, and then of course, and him dying, I guess is appropriate too, but it's just I was set, his wife and son dying was frustrating, and I mean, this was my least favorite one, I guess I would say. But don't get me wrong, I still like it. I'd still watch all three together again because it's the story, but it's, The Godfather 3, you know.
Good analogy. I would go there too. I feel like of the three, this is my least favorite. And I can't really put my finger on exactly why it's my favorite. Maybe it is the tone, because it is such a shift from what we had in the previous two movies. And we see a much darker side to Caesar. I mean, it's earned. It's obviously earned
Right,
because, at the beginning, Caesar is himself. He is still the same leader that he always has been and is merciful toward humans who come at him. But he's thanked for his mercy by Woody Harrelson's Colonel coming in and killing his wife and son.
right,
And so, of course, that, like I said, this darkness that we see in Caesar is definitely earned. And you see Caesar struggling with it throughout the movie because he is seeing visions of Koba throughout the movie. And he's afraid, I guess, that he's becoming more and more like Koba because
right,
now he has had that taste of what the evils of humanity can bring upon him. And so now he wants that same kind of vengeance that Koba was after, uh, throughout the last movie.
right.
Um, and again, I know I sound like a broken record, but Andy Serkis, I still,
Yeah.
feel like he crushed it again, with this performance. Um, again, I mean, it just really is. It's a shame that he's not showered with awards for this trilogy.
So there's for if anybody's watched Walking Dead, you see like Rick Grimes go through so many ups and downs and changes. And one of the themes is him originally not being Shane, his his best friend, who was in the first couple of seasons very violent and very much an aggressive person, and just again, just very aggressive and killed anybody, anything, anytime. And Rick was against that. Well, as the story goes on, you kind of see Rick become Shane a bit in that. And I think that's probably the only parallel that I've seen that's like this with Caesar trying not to be Koba. It's almost like what you have to become or what war makes you, or you become the monster, right? You become what you're trying to avoid being. Um, so, I think it was really good that they did that. And again, ultimately, Caesar, dying in the end is okay. I did think it was it's just frustrating and disappointing that the guy that Caesar saved, and mercifully sent back to the colonel is the one who shot him. And not that that's not appropriate. I guess you see that kind of stuff. Game of Thrones with Egret, the boy. Of course, she deserved it. She killed his dad. Never mind. But you know what I'm saying.
All right. Well, any final thoughts about the Apes trilogy? And I know you haven't seen Kingdom yet, but where would you kind of hope that the franchise would go moving forward? I mean, personally, I thought like we have War for the Planet of the Apes, Caesar's dead. That's it. This is the end of our
Yep.
franchise at this point.
Yep.
I mean,
I
not that
would
they would
just
let it lie forever. I'm sure eventually they'd come back and reboot it again, but they are continuing the franchise. So what are your hopes for it, having not seen Kingdom yet?
so when you lose a character that you're invested in, you have no other character to latch on to except maybe Maurice, I guess. Or, and I think there's a time jump here for this next one. I'm in my mind, the only other thing I can latch on to is trying to get to a place where you have like apes that are living in a society like the humans were. That's one of the things you got in the originals. What was you come into it, they arrive back on Earth and they're all living like, making coffee, you know what I mean? And doing like in an industrial, post-industrial age. Um, and so that's kind of what I would want to look for. And I don't think it'd be accomplished in this movie. But I want to see progression of era all the way up into a technological age and then have something like that introduced again. That would be cool for me to see a couple of movies lead towards that same thing happening again, and
That
having
would
a
be
revamp.
interesting. That would be interesting. Yeah. I would, yeah. It would be great to see it come full circle and bring it back to you've got an astronaut who has come from the past, because they did set that up somewhat in the original. There were Easter eggs in Rise of the Planet of the Apes, where you see
Yeah,
they I think it was a news broadcast that's kind of in the
there's a mission
background
to Mars.
saying the Icarus had taken off, and then you see was it a newspaper article? The headline says Icarus is lost.
Right,
They lost track of the ship, and so it would be interesting to come back to that somewhere in the future, in a future installment of the franchise, and then bring it back full circle to the original 1968 Planet of the Apes, where you've got your astronauts who land in this future that they don't understand.
right.
That would be, yeah, that's
Now, of
really
course, you've
interesting.
broken continuity. You can't go back to the old ones because, Caesar's mom, we know that Caesar's not the product of what were their names? Roddy McDowell.
Cornelius and
Or
Zero,
Cornelius,
yeah,
yeah, yeah. So, but you could still do a fifth or sixth movie and redo it. You know what I
yeah.
mean? And do it right, with men not nakedly swimming in a, waterfall. That would be great.
And
Um
let's not have our Taylor actor go, "Huh." No, no mad scientist laughing. Okay,
No, we don't
let's
need
let's
that.
just get away with that.
But that would be really a cool way. Otherwise, I think from what I read or I had seen that, well, first of all, in this new one, they're gonna have like the girl that's from Witcher in it. So I'm looking forward to seeing her in that. But we can talk more in the next one about that. So
That's right, folks. We are going to we'll wrap up this conversation about the trilogy, and the franchise continues on with Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. It's in theaters now as we are recording this episode. It's been out for a couple of weeks. Um, and Landon, you said you haven't seen it yet, but we are going to discuss it in our next episode. So be sure to come back for that as we wrap up our 4 episode treatment of the Planet of the Apes franchise. Uh, so yeah, if you have seen these movies, if you enjoyed them, if you didn't enjoy them, let us know your thoughts on these films. What do you think of Andy Serkis? Was he robbed of an Oscar? I mean, obviously, yes, that's the answer. He was robbed
Yes.
of even a nomination. Just showed the dude some love.
Yes.
Um, don't forget to like, subscribe, click that bell icon so you'll be notified whenever we get a new geeky episode out there. And be sure to have a great whatever it is, wherever you are.
See ya.